Oh hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Daniel Gross. Today, we're going to explore some very influential experiments on today's episode of Psychology.
Science plus brains equals psychology.
The Loftus and Palmer study, more commonly referred to as the car crash study, examined how word choice can alter eyewitness testimony. The original study, performed by Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer, began by showing participants footage of car accidents. The experimenters would then ask the participants questions on the footage they saw. When asking how fast the vehicles were traveling, the experimenters used 5 different words: smashed, collided, bumped, hit, and contacted. The verb implied information about the speed, which systematically affected the participants' memory of the accident. Participants who were asked the smashed question thought the cars were going faster than those who were asked the hit question. The participants in the smashed condition reported the highest speed estimate, 40.8 miles per hour, followed by collided at 39.3 miles per hour, bumped at 38.1 miles per hour, hit at 34 miles per hour, and contacted at 31.8 miles per hour in descending order. The experiment was famously redone by the psychologists of the Robert A. Barron Academy Administration. The experiment, done by the Judaics Department, examined students' reactions to tests. Lead experimenter Rabbi Ari Kellerman wrote one test to give to all of his Gemara classes. After giving the test to the upperclassmen, he asked them,
"So, how hard were those tests?"
The students responded relatively nonchalantly, but when Rabbi Kellerman asked some underclassmen students,
"So, how challenging were those tests?"
chaos ensues. The students had taken the same exact tests, yet the underclassmen's reaction was so much more extreme due to the verb used by Rabbi Kellerman. Some critics of this experiment have pointed to the fact that the underclassmen are naturally in a constant state of panic, but the overwhelming view of the scientific community is that the experiment was a valid recreation of the original experiment, in part due to the breadth of the investigation. Many other members of the Judaics Department took part in the study to various levels of success, including Ms. Gelman.
So, how hard were those tests?
And Rabbi Block.
So, guys, how challenging were those tests?
And now for a word from our sponsors.
Look at Petty.
No, I want the
Be quiet, I'm trying to teach!
Look at Petty.
Do you have trouble corralling your students and making them quiet?
Yes.
Well, try Pavlovian conditioning or classical conditioning. All you need is a ruler and a bell. Every time a student misbehaves, you just hit that bell and start beating them in the hand with the ruler. Soon, they'll associate the bell noise with getting beat. So all you'll have to do is hit the bell and they will cower in fear.
Except for me, I'm always respectful.
Buy it now for $19.99 at your local CVS.
Oh, hi. I forgot you were there once again. The Stanford Marshmallow Experiment was the brainchild of psychologist Walter Mischel as a study of delayed gratification. Mischel was an NYU psychology graduate who had escaped Nazi-occupied Austria as a child. Mischel's experiment began in the late 1960s. He was trying to find out whether delayed gratification develops in children through a fairly simple experiment. He took children aged 4 through 6 from the daycare on the Stanford campus and placed marshmallows in front of each child. He told them that they could eat it on the spot or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. He followed up with the children in adulthood and found that the ones who displayed delayed gratification as children were more successful in the future. The psychologists at the Robert and Barron Academy for the Gifted recreated the experiment on their students using a delectable alternative to marshmallow, muscle milk. The experiment was done by none other than the great Dr. Mr. Professor Sell Esquire. Here is some of the footage that we obtained from this exclusive experiment.
You will soon receive a container of muscle milk. If you wait patiently, you will receive a second one. If you drink it before I come back, you will not receive a second one.
The professor and his team watched the hidden cameras in the room as the test subjects anxiously wait. Child 1 seems to have much more trouble keeping himself in line. Child 1 ultimately fell victim to the vicious temptation radiating from the muscle milk.
The experiment was done on all 600 kids on the RMPA for the Gifted campus, and thus, the scientific community accepts this as a valid recreation of the original marshmallow experiment. Between the years 1924 and 1932, experiments were conducted by Elton Mayo at the Hawthorne Works Electric Company to test which work conditions were most conducive to worker productivity. The most famous variant of the experiment tested the effect of light intensity on the workers' production. Surprisingly, no matter what the change in conditions was, the result was almost always a short-term production increase. A convincing conclusion wasn't reached until 20 years later, when the Hawthorne effect was coined by Henry Landsberger in his study on the experiments. Specifically, he described the effect as a tendency of participants in an experiment to improve productivity due to the fact that they're being observed. In general, the term is used today to indicate a spike in efficiency and productivity when workers are being monitored.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Raquel. So I just walked into some of our classes, and I gotta say, we have amazing students. Literally every single one of them was attentive and engaged.
That's really cool, and I really hope that that's true, but you may be experiencing the Hawthorne effect.
The Hawthorne effect?
Yeah, it's the tendency of people to be more productive when they're being monitored. You've never heard of it?
Sounds interesting. I'll look into that.
Wow, I didn't know the kids were so wild. And that's phase 2.
If this is true, can you please explain how
We're using that.
Avery, how would you say your overall experience is?
Pretty cool.